Welcome back to Buy or Sell, the series where you pitch me your predictions for the theme park world, and I either buy or sell them and explain why. If you want your idea considered for the next video, leave a comment below starting with buy or sell. In this episode, we look at B&M and if that company is moving into a new generation, if a shifting population will bring more parks into starving western cities, and if Universal's shift outside of California and Florida will force Disney's hand to follow suit. This is Buy or Sell, episode 18. Let's start with Jadney Parks. In the next 20 years, Magic Mountain will build a parking structure down the road. It's true, Magic Mountain used to be a park that looked like they had room to expand. They didn't own the land, but the land was there. Now, that land is occupied, and those houses there are crazy expensive if you ever thought about moving there. The land they have is pretty much the land they got, but that being said, I'm selling this. I don't see them expanding much more into the parking lot, especially with the types of coasters Six Flags is adding. We're not talking about massive big footprint coasters, even like Scream was back in 2003. We're talking about Raptors, small dive coasters, stuff that will fit on small plots of land, stuff that will run over footpaths, and all they have to do is remove something small to make that happen. I don't even think they'll stop at removing small rides. They'd probably tear out Viper if they wanted a big plot of land for anything. But again, don't count on that. An off-site parking structure would be a pretty radical move. Too radical for me to buy. Pipe Picasso. Will Kings Island ever get a record breaker or a first-of-its-kind coaster under Cedar Fair? There's no doubt, Cedar Fair loves Kings Island, but Cedar Fair is like a parent that treats his kids differently, even the ones they actually like. I'm selling this. Cedar Point gets their record breakers. Canada's Wonderland gets the first coasters of their kind. Kings Island gets the tried and true models. They were late to the B&M Hyper Party, but they got an awesome one in Diamondback. They couldn't have been more late to the B&M Invert Party, but they got the longest one with Banshee. They got a mid-scale GCI wooden coaster, but they got one with the best layout. And they got a B&M Giga 8 years after Canada's Wonderland, and Orion doesn't break any kinds of records whatsoever. I would not be surprised to see a 200-foot RMC reboot of Son of Beast. That's something that would be awesome, but not a first and not a record breaker. That would fall right in line with Kings Island's investments. A follow-up from Pipe Picasso. Kings Island will focus on reclaiming the best kids area, including adding a family coaster in the next 5 years. We just talked about Kings Island being a Cedar Fair favorite, and part of their charm is their awesome kids area. They won the golden ticket for best kids area every year from 2001 to 2018. That spanned from Paramount to Cedar Fair, from the Nickelodeon characters to Planet Snoopy. But the award for the best kids area now belongs to Dollywood, and they took that title starting in 2019 when they opened Wildwood Grove. They've poured money into this area over the last 4 years. I got to go there in 2022 and it was impressive. And this year, they're adding Big Bear Mountain, so it's just getting better. That being said, I'm buying this. In years without a major new addition, I can see Cedar Fair trying to make upgrades to Planet Snoopy where they can. And maybe they do add a kids coaster. Maybe something like those new Skyline dueling coasters. They may not take the title back, but I can see them at least making the effort. Shining coasters. B&M pulls an Intamin Vekoma and enters their next generation. B&M has proven themselves to be different than other manufacturers. Others try to market themselves by doing something crazy, something that'll turn heads and is super easy for their parks to market. B&M advertises reliability, good capacity, and a smooth, pleasant ride. They don't take a lot of chances, but they also don't sit back and rest on their laurels. I'm buying this. Just look at their 3 new coasters for 2023. 2 of them are launched. That matches the number of launch coasters they built over the first 32 years of their existence. One of those launch coasters is the first ever surf coaster. The other is their first ever shuttle coaster. Their other coaster is a very small-scale wing coaster at Legoland in Germany. It may not be crazy and in your face, but B&M is more flexible than some people think, and they find ways to keep their catalog fresh. Maybe their next generation is more launch coasters and more family-friendly coasters. It's all good. With the opening of Wildcat's Revenge, Hershey Park has the most diverse coaster lineup in the country. A few months ago, we asked if Wildcat's Revenge made Hershey Park a top 3 park in the country. I didn't think so, but in terms of diversity of coasters, that's a different story. Wildcat's Revenge fills in a big gap, and you still have a modern wooden coaster, a classic wooden coaster, a B&M Invert, an Intamin Launch, a multi-looper, modern and classic family coasters, indoors and outdoors, and 2 hypercoasters. Maybe if Candemonium was a Giga, it would help its case. I'm selling this. It's certainly up there, and some people may argue it's number 1, but I'm only willing to go top 5, maybe top 3. I think Cedar Point has a beat. Magic Mountain has a strong argument, and I would even argue Six Flags Great America is more well-rounded. We're splitting hairs here. No one's gonna deny Hershey Park's lineup, but I can't put it as number 1 as the most diverse in the country. Theme Park Nerd. Universal Hollywood built a second park somewhere in SoCal on the level of Epic Universe. I'm selling this. I know Universal has gobs of money, but they've been very aggressive in expanding and updating their Hollywood park. I gotta think, if they were willing and able to build a second park, they would have done it by now. Land is so expensive in Universal City, and in all of the LA area for that matter, so it makes a lot more sense to expand in Orlando as they're doing, and finding new hotspots for development, like they're doing in Texas. And that brings me to my next question. Luke Shed. Assuming Universal's new park in Texas is a hit, Disney will respond and build a park in that area in the next 10 years. For those of you who don't know, back in January, Universal announced a brand new theme park to be built in Frisco, Texas. This would be catered to families with young kids, a 97-acre plot of land, and no real timetable for opening. Universal stated, "We think North Texas is the perfect place to launch this unique park for families, given its growing popularity within this part of the country." This is coming on the heels of Epic Universe, a park that's well in progress and slated to open in 2025, not far from their existing parks in Florida. So there you have Disney, focusing all their efforts overseas ever since 2001. They had a nice head start, 4 parks in Florida, adding a second one in California, then looking to Japan, France, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. But now, maybe they'll need to turn their sights back to America. California and Florida are obvious. They're super populated, they're warm climates for year-round parks. Disney and Universal took advantage of those markets early and often. But then you got Texas. Business-friendly, decent climate, population exploding, and Universal dove right in. Frisco is just north of Dallas and it's a great area, but I don't even think that's the best area in Texas to expand. If you go south, you run into some of the fastest growing cities in America. Austin, New Braunfels, and San Antonio. The climate is even better down there also, so if you're Disney or Universal, it almost seems crazy not to try and tap that market. It's right in the middle of California and Florida, so it would attract a lot of people in the middle of the country. Also, given their rift with the state of Florida, they might be looking for another spot to expand. But there's so much political turnover, and this is such a long-term prediction. Who knows what their situation will be in 10 years. I'm buying this because I think this move into Texas is significant, and I think in 10 years, Disney does open a new park outside of California or Florida, and I would bet it's coming to Texas. Watch flicks. In the next few years, competition in the fastest growing western states will grow. We're talking about Utah, Montana, Washington, maybe even Colorado and Idaho. But right now, the Wild West isn't so wild when it comes to coasters. You have your oases in the middle of nowhere, like Lagoon and Silverwood, and you have your small parks that just kind of exist, like Wild Waves. And given the sprawling mass of nothingness in the western US, and the population being small and spread out, building a park there doesn't make sense. Now, as California gets more expensive, and people are packing up and finding cheaper places to live, that might change. Places like Salt Lake, Seattle, Boise, the more they grow, the more you're gonna see the market for coasters open up. I'm buying this. If the migration trends continue like they are now, I gotta think we're gonna see more parks pop up. Thrill stuff. After California's Great America closes, Discovery Kingdom sees a major increase in attendance and starts getting better investments. If and when California's Great America closes, I think that will drive more people to visit other parks in the area. For people looking for major thrills, Santa Cruz and Discovery Kingdom will be the places to go. I would bet on Discovery Kingdom getting a bump in attendance once Great America is gone. But will they receive larger investments? I don't think so. I'm selling this. Usually, more competition, not less competition, is what drives better investments. Discovery Kingdom automatically becomes the biggest draw in Northern California, at least the park with the biggest rides, so they might benefit from just being the default choice. If there's an example of a park that shut down, causing a park nearby to start investing more money, please let me know because I can't think of one. Vulture Racing. Six Flags will sell off at least 2 parks before the end of the decade. Six Flags famously sold off a ton of parks in the mid-2000s, trying to save the company from going bankrupt, but they had massively overexpanded and had something like 40 properties around the world. Now, they have 27, but 15 of them are amusement parks. 12 of them are water parks, more than half of those being linked with an amusement park. Six Flags is kind of in flux again, changing their strategy, having some bad quarters, and if their new plan completely fails, they could be back in a spot where they have to sell some parks. If you include water parks, I'd buy it. But for amusement parks, I'm selling this. I could see maybe one park getting sold off. They don't own Frontier City or Darien Lake, but maybe they step away from operating one of those parks. Maybe they step away from La Ronde or Great Escape. I could see one of the small market parks leaving the chain if things got really bad. I just don't think they had the same reckless excess they had back in the 2000s. Kevin Lynch. American Eagle is about to start a multi-year refurbishment project. So apparently, a lot of work was done on the red side over the last year. And here we are in 2023, the American Eagle saga continues. This is years after we thought they had to make a decision. Tear it down, RMC it, or completely overhaul it. It seems like they may be making improvements here and there, little by little, and maybe over time that adds up to a lot and American Eagle lives on. I'm buying this. There doesn't seem to be a desire to do anything drastic here. You could say the rumors of its demise were greatly exaggerated. Some of that was my fault, and I'm sure, now that I'm saying this, they'll for sure tear it down. But seriously, based on their recent actions, it seems like they want to keep it, and they may be doing just enough to keep it operational year to year. Charles Kless. The Mega Looper model will make a comeback. I'm selling this. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but parks are always looking for a marketing angle. Biggest, fastest, longest, first of its kind, or just some kind of gimmick. B&M has been great keeping up with this. They have their 200-foot hypers and 300-foot gigas. Their wing coasters, where you ride on the side of the track. The dive coasters, where you have vertical drops. Flying coasters, where you're face down for most of the ride. And now their surf coaster with those bouncy stand-up seats. But just a normal sit-down looper with 5 to 7 inversions. I don't see any parks being interested in that. I know they just opened Decepticoaster at Universal Beijing, but they basically wanted the Hulk, and that's a special case. Those basic sit-down loopers may have been marketable 20 to 30 years ago, but not anymore. I think it's the same problem the Chance Hyper GTX has, and those aren't flying off the shelf either. Catherine Zimmerman. The next coaster to get the RMC treatment in the Six Flags chain will be Roar at Six Flags America. Let's weigh the options Six Flags currently has, and let's keep it realistic. Let's start with Six Flags St. Louis. The Boss is a massive wooden coaster. It's had its problem with roughness, but it's also the most iconic coaster in the park. I wouldn't count on this happening. Le Monster at La Ronde is another option. This is an old wooden coaster and it doesn't get very good reviews. But then there's the whole issue with RMC in Canada, and that makes this less likely even if it's not impossible. A few months back, I also mentioned El Toro at Great Adventure. I don't think it would necessarily get the classic RMC treatment, but an RMC iBox retrack, or that 208 steel track that Mindblower is getting. Maybe they go with that. So, is Roar at Six Flags America still the most likely option? I say yes, I'm buying this. They have Wild One, so they don't need 2 wooden coasters. They really need a new coaster, and this is a pretty cheap way to get an elite coaster into the park. Six Flags America is big enough to justify an RMC, and it's kind of amazing they haven't done it yet. I don't put anything past Six Flags when it comes to this park. They really stopped caring about it more than 20 years ago. But still, I think this is the most likely RMC option right now. That's a wrap on episode 18. Let me know what you think about any of these topics, if you agree or disagree, and why. Also, don't forget, if you want your idea considered for the next video, leave it in the comments below, starting with buy or sell. Before you go, don't forget to drop a like, and if you're new here and love coasters, please give me a sub. I have a playlist with all of the buy or sell episodes. Also, check out my links below for my Discord server, and my second channel where I post copyright-free off-ride footage, and my baseball channel if you also happen to love baseball. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.